Hello, hello, hello. I'm at the top there. That star to the left or the right. Why is every Doctor Who episode at the moment somebody ends up being a star or gold dust or something? You know what I mean? So I feel as though I'm part of I'm very meta tonight. Hello. Right. Welcome to our Who Night. Get your popcorn, get the lights out, Let's have our sci-fi seance full of first impressions and kickback and emotion. 5 panelists tonight, 5 voices. It's going to be interesting. What we do have to help you digest the news about Doctor Who and Lux, we've got the What the F item straight away. And what the hell did we just see? We've got Broke Hack Bingo. Have your sci-fi scorecards ready. We've got Night Terrors. Is there anything from the episode that's troubling you long term? We have the Matrix Metrics. What sort of episode was it? What sort of story was it? And then, of course, we've got the RTD Rescue Roadmap. How's it going? Is it going any good? So, should be fun. This is the Who Night. You're welcome aboard. Let's take a spin in the TARDIS to Miami, 1952. We'll take a detour slightly to get the lads on, eh? So, first of all, hello, Christian.
Howdy.
Well, there's a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be a bit tasty, isn't it, I think?
I think so.
So let's get everybody on. So let's have a look. We've got Boomer Doug.
Hello. Pleased to be here.
Yeah, different time zone.
Yeah, I was meant to be on last week, but I think watching Robot Revolution 3 times actually made me unwell, so I couldn't appear. I've only watched this episode once this week, but I have made notes.
Right. So we've also got, of course, another one of our originals. We've got Sonny. Good to see you.
Captain Sonny Waffles. Good to be back sailing in. I got a lot of opinions this time, and boy, we got a good episode for once. Maybe.
I think we're going to have an interesting conversation.
And we're starting with what the F. My God, we're going to go early. And just to spice it up, and
story of my life going early.
It's too international this at the moment. You've got Middlesbrough, the UK, the Wyoming. We've got America twice over. We've got the Aussies, and of course, just to help me in my region, we've got Paul. Good to see you, Paul.
Hello, fine, Andy, and be gentle. It's my first time.
As if
heard that before.
Well, as you know, it is obviously our What the F item. And of course, with the What the F item, I really do want us to kind of get straight into what were the problems, or was it awesome? It's kind of that kind of double whammy effect. So let's have a look. Let's be nice. Paul, when you first saw that episode, awesome? You were so amazed? Or was there something that you found quite problematic?
There was something I found problematic at the start. They played Chuck Berry, but that song didn't come out until 1956, and they were in 1952, and I couldn't. I knew there was something wrong, and I had to Google it and check. So, shall I fact check the rest? Any other dates that he does? Do I have to fact check them?
Mm-hmm.
Or did you just make it up as he goes along? This RTD fella?
Don't say he makes things up. My God, he's up till 2 a.m. checking yet, but, and apparently in his scripts. I mean, he's so on it. Did he get Miami 1952 right? Maybe he did. Sonny, what about you on the What the F?
What the F? An episode I actually enjoyed. I can genuinely say I enjoyed myself. What the F? There was one good Doctor moment that I actually liked. It related to race. I was like, I can't believe they did it. Like, what the F? RTD had restraint. Like that he didn't go crazy on any topic, I think. And I really loved, this episode was just so meta. That's why I think I loved it. I actually liked it because if you remember what I said, I called it. I said, if RTD related it to what came before, actually connects his story, and if the meta is it part of the story, I will like it. And I liked it.
I think meta's going to be an interesting one as we go through
Oh,
tonight's
yeah.
discussion.
Oh,
For sure.
yeah.
I think it's going to divide the people.
Very
Doug,
much so.
So, Doug,
Okay.
What the
Well,
F?
what the F? Well, the meta thing we can discuss later, but unfortunately, I disagree with Sonny. But the what the F moment for me, being a classic movie fan, was they reduced Rock Hudson to being just an HIV victim, and just I don't know, it saddened me a bit. I know it's relevant. I know that's what he was trying to do, but Rock Hudson was a legend, and you just got a small comment about he was an HIV victim. We studied that in nursing or something, and as a movie fan, that bothered me. But the meta stuff we will discuss later because I have opinions.
Yeah, Rock Hudson will come up at one point because yes, there's a lot of interesting things going on. We said it's meta and it's this and it's that, but gosh, there was some interesting stuff to explore. Christian, where would you like to start on your what the F?
Bringing in the modern day fans, that was very hard to ignore. I mean, all the points that Doug and Sonny and Paul have made are valid, and it actually stood out in my mind. But that was a big distraction, and this is where I always come in and say, and I've chatted this in a few places already during the day, the moment you go that meta is usually a harbinger of the end of a series because you're breaking the canonicity of the entire universe. That is to say, if you look at St. Elsewhere, the very last scene of the last episode, the entire series run was actually in the mind of a little autistic boy. Or if you look at the X-Files prior to their finale in the original run, they did an allegorical examination of people being so immersed in entertainment and needing to get away from that. And so I'm looking through that lens. Are they doing it tastefully, or are they doing it with a rather insulting sledgehammer? And I felt like RTD got his sledgehammer out and he was ready to go.
I agree, mate. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I almost am teasing myself even early doors here because, gosh, I could go early on so many different things. Please, everybody, be patient with us because, gosh, I mean, God, where do I start? But I suppose I should start with actually just kind of reminding ourselves of how good it could be if we were doing the what the F properly. Here we go.
A tear, Sarah Jane.
Is this death? It's the end, but the moment has been prepared for.
What have I just seen? I don't believe it. I cannot believe my eyes.
I mean, it's just to remind us that, we do know our Doctor Who is there, and it's in RTD's brain as well. The first item I wanted to mention is, listen, who is he writing this for? Because let's be honest, whether people enjoyed it or not is partly, that's an irrelevance to a degree. The other thing I'm worried about is the casual viewer. We are trying to build an audience. Doctor Who has been lame. It's been a wounded animal since Chris Chibnall's era, and it needs a pep up. And whether it's the bi-generation juice, whether it's the regeneration vapors, whether it's mentioning the pantheon of gods and the toy maker and Mrs. Flood appears. I mean, for God, and then you go meta on top. I mean, for God's sake, can you imagine the casual viewer flicking through the channels going, and I have to say, it's bad writing, Christian, this, because I keep getting told, in fact, we've even done streams where if Doug says something Australian or I say something a bit parochial British, etc., we actually say, hold on, we might have to explain that. Did RTD bother to explain anything that was an intertextual reference in that plot? And I think that's bad.
Well, he didn't. It strikes me as a form of lazy writing. And the first thing that came to my mind is exactly what Paul said. As soon as I heard Roll Over Beethoven, I said, just a minute, that wasn't around that early. Am I wrong? I checked. I confirmed the broadcast of that particular song. So he's not doing any checking. If he's not doing any checking on something as simple as that, oh gosh, I want a song that's relevant to the period that I selected, and can't bother himself to do it, we have a problem. If he's not willing to explain certain intercontextual references to make sure the audience has them, we've got a problem. He's gotten lazy. He's not stupid. I have to assume he's gotten a little bit lazy.
I agree about the lazy thing.
But this is where I mean, Sonny, when I see this, and I just think, do you have to be a Doctor Who nerd to really be able to attach yourself to this episode? Or would it have been brilliant for a casual viewer to say, oh, it's a bit scary at the beginning, or I know what's happening. He lands in a TARDIS, they get out, they see a locked cinema. Oh, I can cope with this. I don't know. What do you think?
I see your point, but RTD knows just as much as we know the show's dead, right? So he's not writing it for the casual viewer. His priorities are completely different. I saw the meta stuff as RTD seething. He was so upset that he's putting in these bad jokes, and it's coming. Some of the comedy was coming across to me like I was laughing because I was like, "That's funny," but like maybe not in the way he thought it was, but it's still funny to me. So like, the way he's writing it this season in particular, it is for the fans. Like he's talking to the fans. So like a casual viewer, but this episode's episodic. The main counterpoint here is the episode's episodic. So like a casual viewer can watch this, but they're not going to get everything out of it that we are, you know. And I think that's by design. I don't think RTD, that's part of his priority.
As I come to Paul, I'm picking up on your humor point, actually, Sonny, because, I picked up some things. I thought I can't be completely negative. I can't be completely positive, obviously. I need to be fair. Darn it, I was so big when I arrived. That's it, you acquire depth. There were little touches, little deft touches in the dialogue that I thought were cute in that way. That's fine, because it doesn't wreck it. I should never have learned perspective. I'm a two-dimensional character. What do you expect?
Backstory?
Yeah, I thought, you're having a good night there, RTD. You're actually writing some slightly decent little lines that are relevant to the context. Right. I can buy into that. We've been framed. You've been framed, and then actually one or two touches between the companion and the Doctor, I could live with. Really? You're just a Doctor always? Yeah, ridiculous. I actually thought all these lines were getting delivered all right. Yeah. But that's Brendan being fair. And now, I'll go heavier on other stuff. Shall we out it now, Paul? This stuff about the fans.
Because, yes, please.
Because I think it's what every fan's talking about. Because, oh my God, by the way, I'm not going to say tonight, oh my God, it's about me. Oh my God. Because number one, I don't act like that.
No.
I was actually quite affronted that the stereotype of Doctor Who fans is a very problematic.
Oh, mate, you've taken the words right out of my mouth.
They were ones who didn't get surnames.
It was horrible. I being a fan for 60 plus years, those fans were stereotypes. They were not funny.
Were any of them straight?
I don't think so.
Maybe the first one. She looks like Jodie, don't she?
Well, what an evil wheelchair.
Yes, and the accent was similar too.
I thought she was Jodie for a second. I was like, there's no way they casted Jodie to be a fan, because that would be very meta, because Doctor Who reuses actors, but it's not that deep, I guess. But like, I don't know. I thought it was actually like funny, like the blink bit, hilarious. Because it's like, that's the only thing RTD hears about from when fans walk up to him. They just go, oh, I love Blink. Like, whatever.
I get it. He had a joke about Blink and, you didn't like the boom, you didn't like the Goblin Son and all the rest of it. But if you were a casual viewer, you're going, I don't know what he's talking about.
It also dates, doesn't it? It dates really quickly. We've discussed this before. Meta stuff's all well and good, but you watch this in a few years and you're going to go, what the F? Literally, it's it was a cheap shot. It was a cheap shot.
Yeah, and well, that's why I say usually when someone goes this meta, It usually is at the end of a series run.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
often
Yes.
it will be in the
Yes.
very last episode. So
Yes.
I can see attempting to use this kind of humor to deconstruct everything. And I would fully have expected this in the finale in some capacity. But for it
Yeah.
to be placed this early in the season shows that when he was constructing it, he was probably in a fit of pique. He was upset because he'd gotten very negative reviews over the anniversary specials, very negative responses to Church on Ruby Road. And as he was
Yes.
compiling this, he said, I'm going to take a stab at the fans. I know this is going to go down in flames. They aren't
He was
responding
being a
to
little
that.
bitch. That's all he was being.
So,
Exactly. So isn't that funny? Why aren't you laughing really hard? You should have a big
No.
smile on your face. I thought Brendan would love that part. You should just have a
No.
big smile on your face. Like, look at him so mad. He's so mad because nobody liked this season 1. And this meta stuff is like basically the only thing he can do to save these 2 seasons.
I know, but my argument is, and we're still on the what the F thread, is I counted it. I had my stopwatch. It's a 43-minute episode, and for 4 minutes 34 seconds was the fan meta bit. In other words, he only had a 39-minute episode of story, and
Yep.
we haven't even gone into that yet. So,
Oh,
let's
don't
be
even
looking
start
at-
it on that.
Now, the second time I watched it, I timed it myself. And I thought when I watched it the first time, it was a lot longer than 4 minutes. It seemed a lot longer.
Yes, I
It
agree.
dragged.
That's why I timed it after the first time, because I thought, God, this is dragging.
Mhm.
It's very indulgent. It's very nudge, nudge, wink, wink. It's very fourth wall breaking, literally. And I'm just not sure about this at all. Now, apparently there were rumors that, you know, there was an additional shoot to put this in, as we've kind of already referenced, because of his.
That felt like a reshoot because they did this series back to back. So I'm wondering the negative reaction that they were commenting on probably wouldn't have been evident when they shot the episodes. I'm thinking that was a reshoot.
Well, I mean, it's going to be fascinating. I'm conflicted by so many things tonight, but I'll try and just deal with one thing at a time, which is the only thing we can do. Anything that's relevant to you, bring up in the sections. But Claude, good to see you. Guess what? I like the episode. This is a funny one, this. There's people who loved it. There's people who thought a bit more Doctor Who or better than last week. And then there's other people saying this is not my Doctor Who at all. And
I wanted to like it.
I liked it, I think, if I was being generalised, I liked it for about 20 odd minutes. Again, I counted. And then, of course, we hit all the... It's 73 yards again. He just about manages to build a world. He just about manages to establish a mood. And then it just evaporates. I mean, can he not focus or concentrate? Right, you've established a world. I kind of believe in the projectionist. I understand I'm in Miami. There's some segregation going on. I'm there. Right. And now we're going to break the fourth wall and disappear.
Okay, but this is where I have to the issue about segregation and being in the South. If it was going to be germane, and I mean seriously germane to the way the plot needed to unfold, I'd say, okay, let's take a stab at this. But it felt to me like that was an element of virtue signaling, window dressing. Here, I want to set the stage so that we've got something that we can comment on, even though it doesn't necessarily play into the plot itself. That's
felt the
not
same
the
way.
writing.
I felt the same way.
I agree, but that was the only time Gatwa actually felt like the Doctor. When Belinda went to him and was like, you know, they set up the racist scene in the diner, and Belinda's like, aren't you going to say something? Like, you expect him to make this big grand speech that's going to be over indulgent, right? But he goes, no, we knew where we were going. We're in 1950s, okay? I'm just going to shine. That's what I do. I shine. And then he just goes off and beats the Doctor. And it's like, yes, thank you. That's how you deal with racism. Yes, you don't complain about it. You don't make a big song and dance and ask for donations. You just go like, no, I'm going to be the best version of me. And then people are going to follow, hopefully, or see that I'm good.
Yeah,
I did like that bit. I agree.
Now,
I did like that.
That
bit.
was the only Gatwa scene there where I'm like, that's the Doctor. Like, the Doctor's actually here. And coincidence, he's wearing pants the whole episode.
yeah. Well, we're still on the fan bit. I think this is important. Otherwise, I'm going to be kind of looking pretty unstructured. I hate that. This was the bit at the very end. Again, how did people feel about this? Because you had the fans appeared. The fans died. Remember, they were fictional. And then during the credits, they appeared and started saying, "Oh, I'll give it a 7 out of 10 and all the rest of it." What is ultimately his message? What did you get out of that fan section? I am really troubled in what the hell was going on. Was it extremely just clever ass meta? But then I don't quite know why we're doing that. I just don't. But why are we messing on with fans being fictional or real or dead or alive or mourning an RIP Doctor? What the hell's going on? I mean, Paul, what did you gather from this? Why was it included?
Well, they maybe come back as the gods of Ragnarok. There was 3 of them.
Yes.
So they might be back at the Ragnaroks are at the end, or they're projected to be in the last episode. So maybe this is a sort of precursor to that. Gods do say we're still alive. We're still here.
Yeah, I that's why I did my review recently on The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, because my betting was on the Gods of Ragnarok, and I wanted to plant that review fresh in everybody's minds, and that was deliberate. Yeah, I think, by the way, while we either critique this episode in various ways, I think Lux is going to be that Wild Blue Yonder episode that's quite crucial to the finale. And I think...
I agree.
And we'll discuss it a little bit later tonight, everybody in the thread. But we've got lots of interesting discussions about what the finale might be based on this episode. So stick with us for that. But yes, we're still here and all the rest of it. But I have to say, I just couldn't recognise myself in any shape or form. I mean, I don't...
He was taking the piss. He was just taking the piss.
The thing is, but
Isn't that what a comedian does?
what is this fixation with RTD at the moment? This 60-odd-year-old man who, when we did Rogue, the whole episode was aliens who like to cosplay. Cosplay. I mean, you have a Doctor Who sci-fi episode about cosplay.
Can I just say, sorry to interrupt, I've got to get this out. Why the hell is every fan always depicted as having a bloody fez or a bloody scarf? I don't own either, and I've been into this show for 60 plus years. Please stop it. Yeah, very much so.
No, but it's turning us into that kind of real niche geek thing.
Oh, yeah, come on.
And yeah, I mean, we're all saying that. I've got my Doctor Who character options over there. I've got walls full of sci-fi stuff. I'm no geek, but it's the dressing up. But it was actually the way they acted. I mean, there was 1 male out of 3, and I find it funny because the stereotype about sci-fi fans used to be it was mostly, more male. That has shifted over time. But the thing is, you had 1 male represented out of the 3. Am I allowed to say that after last night's stream? I need to be careful. But yes.
No, you're true. It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
But then you had a wheelchair-bound. Am I allowed to say that? Wheelchair-bound. Then you had.
I'm glad you did. I was afraid to, but yeah.
An effeminate male, Asian. Yep. I mean, it ticked a lot of boxes. It was brilliant.
Big time. Big time.
And then you had a bit of a geeky, toothy woman who I just thought
that's the fan they planned. That's the Jodie fan, right?
Yeah, I think it was definitely meant to be a Jodie reference.
I just thought, thank you for all that. That cheers me up. And of course, you had these little references here, didn't we? I knew this would happen because it was leaked online. R.I.P. Doctor Who. Well, actually, I've used the hashtag tonight. But is anybody in the thread or in the panel able to tell me what was the point of including this in an episode where you could have gone really dark? You could have really done something interesting. Instead, as I said, RTD and Anthony Parkinson says it just seems to be fancy dress obsession. But
it was totally. It was a wasted opportunity, and it was just a piss take. And I think it was just to get a bit of a rise, which is work. Look at us talking about it. Yeah. But it was done. It was just just a sad cliche, and it took me out of the episode, which it was obviously meant to do. But
yeah. Well, for me, I have to say that it didn't. I know it was an insult, and strangely enough, I didn't feel insulted because I knew where it was coming from. I knew why he did it. I knew who he was attacking. So if he was seeking to get a rise out of me in that context, see, I gotcha. He failed in his effort. If he wanted us to talk about the topic, okay, he's succeeded in doing that. But most of us are talking about how it took us out of the episode. So it's certainly not positive.
Well, we've got Matrix Lord here, who Matrix Lord, as people will know, he's been in our thread. He has his own show, and he's been arguing for quite a while certain theories. Right. Well, this is the time it's all going to start to happen, isn't it? But anyway, and RTD has gotten all the Whovians that support the show and against the show to battle to literally promote the theme of the season. Now, Matrix Lord, my theory, of course, is I'm going to discuss the finale a bit later about where it looks as though this could be going, but it's going to be interesting out there, isn't it? That really, I mean, the way Mrs. Flood seems to be saying that May the 24th is the key moment.
Yeah.
I kind of liked it, but I like the meta stuff already. Like, especially with like this scene here, I see RTD steaming in his office writing this, and like he just becomes a comedian. He's taking the piss, right? But where he failed is he doesn't commit to anything. Like he never goes all the way. They should have died because this scene went on too long when they were playing out their death scene. And that's when I fell out of love with this scene, where I was like, oh my gosh, get on with it, right? Because like, are they in the show or are they not in the show? If they're not, that's great. If they are, that's fine, but just say it, right? And so when they died, they didn't die, which is why I felt like it fell short. But it's funny. It's just,
Sonny, this is my thing. I mean, I'll have to leave my what the F item soon. But the thing is, but this is it. This is what you get charged up by. Look at that scene in front of us there. This could be one of the worst scenes in Doctor Who history, because either you love it and think, "Oh my God, this is amazing, what's going on," or you go, "This is just kill the show stone dead." You've just said Doctor Who is something different. I mean, I have to say, I found it fascinating that an episode where they were spending money on animation and amazing graphics, that they then have this very flat scene where you're in a lounge, a very brown lounge, and it's a very flat and a very dull scene visually.
It felt like a reshoot to me. It was out of context of the whole episode.
I don't know if I'll go that far, because they do this a lot in modern media now, where they're just sitting around doing nothing and talking instead of doing action stuff. And this episode had a lot of action, but yeah, this does halt everything, right? So it's kind of out of place.
I just think it's one of those moments that where I think in retrospect people might say this is when Doctor Who died.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is what is the phrase? Jumping the shark.
Yeah.
This is jumping the shark moment, because this is the moment where they officially come in and say this is a show. That shot with the Gatwa dressed in character as the Doctor in front of a television screen with the Doctor Who icon on front of it. I mean, I'm sorry. If you want to break canonicity, if you want to break the history of the show or its relevance, this is how you do it. And the irony is, there was a way to use this kind of a moment if there were mind games being played on the Doctor and his perception of reality was being tested. And it becomes progressively more intense as the story unfolds. Okay, under those contexts, this would work. But the way it was utilized in a 4-minute scene, which dragged on too long, was not the way to do it, unless you were taking a piss take on the fans.
And I think that's my problem. And I mean, I felt in a way it was weird, because I felt sorry for them when they were going to die or not exist. But I was trying to work out, why am I supposed to be watching this? That's all. So I am finding the whole thing problematic about the fans and what it's supposed to be saying. Now, the chat is wild tonight, and I appreciate that, everybody. We do have super chats. It would get you noticed. It's the only way I can say, because I'm trying my best. I'm trying my best to bring people in when I can. But Does anyone have another what the F item before we move on? Just something of standout, awesome or problematic?
I don't know about awesome or problematic, but I thought Ncuti looked like the Doctor. I thought that outfit was quite nice. I thought it was he did look like the Doctor, and he had pants on. Absolutely,
that was the trick. I promise.
Yeah, I think that's it. Wear pants and you look like the Doctor. So that was good.
Right.
I like the horror element when he was becoming a real boy. I was like, yeah, this is a little scarier. And then the beginning, I don't think it was my scariest moment, but like that would be my close second. I liked it.
Oh God, I don't know where to start on some of these things. The bi-generation reference.
Yes, please. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, that got me going.
Me too.
As one of the fans says here, I feel like the Doctor using the last of his bi-generation energy, followed by Mr. Ringerden stealing some regeneration energy, will be important later. Like it will stop him using it when he needs it in the finale, and then somebody else's regeneration energy saves him.
Well, I hope there's some relevance, because what I found was there's no more jeopardy. It's like he's the Wolverine now. You can't hurt him. I mean,
yeah.
I really hope this pays off later in the series, because they're virtually saying, okay, you don't worry about me, I'm just going to heal like the Wolverine. And that means it's sort of like, well, when is the Doctor ever going to be in jeopardy if you can't hurt him? Maybe use kryptonite or something? Come on.
Mm-hmm. That brings up a main crutch of like this episode and kind of the plot Rtd's going with, because they're doing this thing where the Doctor's God again, where they're relating the different gods.
Yes.
So like it's just weird, because it does make it harder for him to be that iconic character that he is. It's not in character at all. Like it breaks.
I agree. I totally agree.
Peter Capaldi, remember when he was in the Davros chair and Davros took his regeneration energy? It kind of reminds me of that scene. And it's just, I didn't like that part of the episode either, because it's like, it's so scary when the Doctor's losing his regeneration energy like that. And it's like, shouldn't he should be dead, I guess. But I guess,
But can I just say that there's so many things about the episode that on one viewing, he might just get away with. It's a big might. But when you look again, you know, like the vortex indicator, the vindicator. Well, why didn't the William Hartnell Doctor think of making that to get Barbara and Ian back? He could have, I'll try and I don't know where I am, but if I make a vortex indicator, I'll grab hold of Earth and we'll get there in 1066, and then we'll gradually get to 1966. You know, this is the point. When you're a super fan, like Rtd's supposed to be, you can't suddenly make the Doctor do stuff that he really couldn't do at all before. Mm-hmm. There's certain things that if you broach that, you suddenly wreck the whole thing, because I'm going, well, you weren't getting Tegan back, and you weren't getting Ian and Barbara back. You said it was you didn't know how to work it.
This is where you have to set things up. One of the problems that I had during the Capaldi run was the transition to when he became a guitar-playing rocker. Yeah. And a lot of people kind of winced at that personification. And I was thinking I would have been okay with it if the episode that introduced the talent to him, some kind of adventure that he was a part of, gave him the legacy of that musical talent, which we then saw him put to play at the start of his next season. Okay, that worked. Yeah. If now the Doctor has this capacity to triangulate and bring someone home, if there had been a previous story that gave him that knowledge, that technology we were witness to, and he's now actually using it, now you've set it up. But he doesn't want to set things up. That's one of the reasons he's leaning towards fantasy. Rtd doesn't want to be constrained by having to plan things that well in advance. He's kind of flying by the seat of his pants.
And he's also... and he's out of ideas. He hasn't got sci-fi ideas, so he's had to lean into fantasy to borrow from there. Mm-hmm. I'd have given him credit if he said to me, as if he talked to me, if Rtd explained to me and said, look, I'm justifying this because we're going to be up against Harry Potter in the next few years, a whole TV series, so we need to go big time. Now, I would have still not allowed him that justification, because I'm going to say, yeah, Harry Potter's using its unique selling point of the fantasy element, whereas Doctor Who was always a little bit science fiction, fantasy, but with established rules, dramatic conceits, and you've bust them to pieces. But this bi-generation thing is peeing me off. It really is. If he's invented this, I've saved a bit of this energy for a moment like this. What the hell?
Yeah.
How come Cho G had to bail out the John Pertwee Doctor? Why didn't I don't get this. Has he just invented the bi-generation myth to suddenly say, oh, I've got a bit of extra in my pocket. Oh, I've got a bit. That's an absolute cheat. Utter laziness.
Oh, is that a little bit like the Meta Crisis, where he's got a hand that turns into another cannon?
Yes.
Yeah.
And didn't he once fix River Song's wrist? He's a broken wrist with a little bit of regeneration.
I think he did.
Yeah, I mean, seeing his hand today, I kind of, it didn't have the right effect on me. I kind of thought of Adric. You remember when Adric, in that very painful way, said, oh no, us Alzarians can heal ourselves quite quickly. And you thought, oh, get off yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, bog off, shut your face, you
The Adric slander. I didn't mind it when Adric did it, but like, this is the Doctor.
Oh, I know, but he said it in such a pretentious way, Adric,
You did that.
We Alzarians. Yeah, fix this, bang. I don't know. So that was my what the F as well. The bi-generation juices and vapors and all that's nonsense. But the other thing I think we do need to kind of mention, because it's on everybody's radar really, is Mrs. Flood.
Oh, Jesus! Yeah.
And what this might mean. So okay, there's lovely Anita Dobson, trick of the light when the TARDIS dematerializes. She's Sunshine Sally, isn't she? Because she was she's wearing the same outfit.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So Sunshine Sally and Sunshine Sally, because he said in the dialogue, Mr. Ringerding said he doesn't like sunlight. Right? And there she is. Look, there you go. It's a matchup. So she's Sunshine Sally in this. I'm trying to work out what, like he says, sorry, don't give me sunshine. And then, she's telling them all about this has got a limited run. This is the best show in town. Better warn you, though, it's got a limited run and it'll end on May the 24th. Now, that gives me terrible vibes that it's all going to end as if it was a story.
Yeah.
It
I think
has
that's what's going to happen.
sense. And think about it in this context. And again, we talk about legacy, future. 20 years from now, will anyone care about the May 24th date? Will that meta component ring true because this ended on May 24th? It won't.
Totally agree. That was just a gimmick. It didn't have to be done like that. I totally agree. It's going to date so badly.
Sorry, were you speaking, Christian?
No, I was just saying that the way that Mrs. Flood has been plugged in, it has all the hallmarks of saying this is a children's show or a children's story. We're going to do the story here. This is how we're going to start it. This is how we're going to bookend it and close it out. And I would almost expect to see Mrs. Flood close a book at the end of the last episode. Wasn't that a wonderful story, children?
Oh, God, you're right. You're right. I think you're going to be right.
But this is what I mean. And I think it's either the Gods of Ragnarok idea, like Paul was saying, or at the end, there's just too much power and or this whole series, the Dallas moment with the Bobby Ewan in the shower, that this was all played on a different playing field that the Doctor didn't realize. And then by obviously the end of this episode, in this episode 8, we realize, right, we weren't quite in the real world. Those rumors, which I thought were unfair at the time, that David Tennant's Doctor was just hanging around just in case Ncuti wasn't very good. No, it wouldn't have been that, because nobody would buy into that contractually. But what it might be, of course, is the David Tennant Doctor is waiting around to bail out his Doctor going into Fantasyland. Because Wasn't the clue there, everybody? The episode I hate, well, the end of the episode, the giggle, when the sledgehammer made a new TARDIS, that TARDIS was a fantasy TARDIS from the Toymaker. So doesn't that TARDIS go into Fantasyland?
Yeah, I like that theory. Even though this is all a bit lame, the only positive is if it is true, does that mean then that everything that happened from the bi-generation we can write off as not really having happened, and then we can just forget about it?
Doug?
I think so. It looks like it's self-contained to me. I've only seen, this is my third episode so far though, right? Like in general of this 2-season arc, and it seems self-contained to me. The last episode we had the 2 different timeline scene, so it seems like it's, and they're talking about all these gods are affecting his worlds, right? So that's what it seems to me, which is an interesting choice because like the Chibnall era is definitely connected, right? But they don't care about that.
So it's interesting that Mrs. Flood might bookend the 2 seasons, and that's the neat trick. The trouble is, I was going to come back to you, Doug, on if this is our theory. How dangerous is that? It killed Dallas. Bobby Ewing coming out the shower and saying the last season was basically fiction. What's the point in watching it? If you realize, that the last 2 seasons was just Doctor Who lost in some fantasy universe, is it quite the same as E-Space, or is it kind of, well, why did I bother?
It's definitely dangerous, and you're absolutely right about the Dallas comparison. And I guess there might be people out there that don't understand what happened. Essentially, the main actor, Patrick Duffy, quit the show, decided he wanted to come back, but they killed him off. So they came up with this whole bullshit idea that the previous season was a dream. Now, but the fan in me kind of hopes it is this, because I have no intention of ever revisiting this series ever again. The Ncuti series, and if it ceases to be part of canon, I'm kind of okay with that. But from a practical point of view, I think they've kind of killed it, really, haven't they, by doing that?
Well, as Bryn, I think you made a very good point that this is a dangerous game to play, because in the process of taking this stance, this is how they wanted to pull it off. They actually alienated another large block of potential viewers. And those viewers are not just going to magically return. Oh, you just made it all up? Okay, and you're going to start fresh again? No, you've lost the entire audience base, which will lead to a hiatus, lack of financing, and no more of the show.
It's either prime arrogance. I mean, as far as as Farsight says here, what's the point of any of it? It's a waste of 2 seasons. We know the type of Doctor Who we want. Now, for everybody who likes a bit of E-Space, I found it a bit tedious myself. I
hated it.
I love E-Space.
I
was having such a good time with E-Space.
I always like it when the Doctor just gets on with this blooming universe. I hate it when we get the gods involved and everything. So actually, this has just been a tedious mess. But it is prime arrogance, surely, to say, as to be Rtd and think, thank you, Disney, for your money. In 2 seasons, back to back, I'm going to do this very fantasy, meta, weird stuff, because I can't think of any ideas. And it'll fill 2 seasons. And by then, we'll have got all the fans back. And then we'll decide to do... sorry, mate. I don't think we're going to get there. But... yeah, I mean, Paul, do you like this version of the possibility of an ending?
Not really, but it might be his intention to just wrap it up with a nice bow and end it all.
Maybe.
He's been given the opportunity to either carry on in the way that he's doing now or to end it. And maybe he's come to his senses and said, I can't do this anymore.
Well, he's saying season 3, season 4, season 5, he's got ideas. So he's certainly saying...
I've got ideas about it, but...
yeah, I know. So there you go. That's just that's our what the F. I mean, gosh, we could go to town, couldn't we, lads, on what's going on here?
Oh,
we have a show to do. So let's move on to the next item and this is the one I think our thread does really enjoy, because we get into the reads of this, and there's no escape for RTD on this one, and any fan anywhere. In those 43 minutes, how much of the sci-fi scorecard did we fill in our Broke Hack Bingo. There we go. So, Broke Hack Bingo. I'll get my bingo card ready. So, that's the card unfilled in. You can see Doug has been doing his. I can't make you go larger at the moment. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm just showing off.
But you can see I won't read them all out. That's boring. You can all read there, and I will put it up on my Facebook page eventually. I'm just deciding if this is the one we're going to stick with. So you can take your list then. Verbal affectations at the very top, Mavity in the middle there, Doctor Indecisive at the bottom. I've actually tweaked that now. Doctor Weak or Indecisive, because I think it's the same issue that we find. So it might prompt our panel and our thread to pick on certain things we haven't mentioned yet. I mean, Christian, when you were having a look at this, is there something that comes to mind when you were filling in your bingo card?
Well, let's see. The Doctor did cry at the sad story of the fans who might disappear as soon as he goes away. So we did get that. We did get that. Mm-hmm. We do have song and dance in the form of our animated character. Let's see. We do have the virtues signaled in the form of segregation and rising above that. So there's the companion had agency. In the end, the Doctor was helpless, and Belinda had to get him out of his bad situation. Bad man trope. Oh, the bad man trope was the New York cop.
Yes. Yep.
So they actually plugged a bad man trope into there. So, costume change.
I felt triggered by the bad man trope in the way that wasn't that just another fantasy moment? It's like
that was another fantasy moment.
And so
definitely.
So basically, isn't that baiting us again, a bit like Dot and Bubble did? Because basically, I'm watching a scene where you're going, "Oh, that's horrible. How horrible is racism in practice?" And you see it in action, and saying that she's from the Caribbean and all the ignorance and everything, and then I've spotted it's another game, and I thought, for God's sake, am I watching something in front of my eyes or not? Are you showing me a racial situation, or are you just showing me a version of one of the harbingers playing around? I hate that kind of baiting the audience and playing with us in a way that actually just makes me think, am I bothered or not? Should I be upset for Belinda for facing a bit of racial, horrid language, or should I just go, whatever? I don't know where to start with this, Sonny.
Yeah, well, it was a mask off moment. It was like, these problems aren't real. That's why he can only create them in the fictional universe. But also, it did provide a good moment for the Doctor, because the Doctor, he acted like the Doctor. He was like, try better. He started pointing out how this was all fake. Like, that was a good scene. I was like, so there's 2 dubs for Gatwa in this episode. 2 W's. That's all I can say about it.
There are 1 or 2 moments when I did think that he's getting a bit more like the Doctor. There were touches, I have to say. It was certainly, I think it was the most Doctorish shoot he's been in his whole run.
Easily. But it proves the point that this arc probably doesn't work, because it took him 3 seasons, 10 episodes to get a really good episode, and it's not really that good, because we can tear it apart. But this is definitely the best episode that I think we have all season, and I've only seen 3 episodes.
Yeah, it was touches like that. I mean, I filled in my scorecard. Obviously, you expect me to, teacher Brendan here. And that's what I filled in. I mean, I might be wrong, I mean, I'm open to criticism from the...
Well, we do have gender fluidity in that, hey, he's Velma. She's Freddy.
Yes. I was...
Oh, that bugged me so much.
I was toying with that, Christian. I was toying with that. And you just think, look, I don't want to force something when I'm not quite... So, yes, I'll fill that in as a permanent. But the things that bothered me, I mean, there was... in that TARDIS when, the verbal affectations. Come on, honey, my favourite bit is getting changed. The Doctor, it was only when he regenerated in the 80s, when he messed around with a coat, or maybe in Robot. But for God's sake, honestly, the Doctor being a diva going, oh, this is the best bit. Again, that's cosplay. Yeah. The most exciting thing about being a Time Lord is you get to dress up. This is play school Doctor Who. Absolutely.
It's not Doctor Who. That's the problem. It's not even Doctor Who. I mean, we've said this before, but Ncuti Gatwa is playing Ncuti Gatwa. I know there's an element of previous actors bringing their personality into it, but they're enhancing the Doctor. He's essentially playing Ncuti Gatwa, and there's nothing doctorish about him. I agree with Sonny that there was an element of coming close with a couple of scenes, but the series now has been going. Yeah, two, exactly.
Just it. No, I counted them on my hands too.
But that's exactly it. I mean, but no, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's rare. Look, I'm being unfair, but I genuinely feel that he is the most miscast fictional character in anything I've ever seen. I really do.
Well, here we've got Reptile. How is that? I mean, you know, they're pushing back on a few things. Fair enough. I was in the middle of it. Christian would have filled it in. How is this gender fluidity? It's personality type. You could have the personality of Queen Liz. Doesn't mean you have a gender crisis. Okay.
Fair enough.
But
I would challenge it on this level. If it was something that wasn't a part of the pattern that we've seen RTD engage in, maybe it wouldn't matter to us. But because he's been so heavy-handed up to this point, we now come to expect it, and that's the lens through which we are going to see it.
Yeah. Now, Tombai Chick here, the master liked to dress for the occasion with that famous line. The trouble was, this is when I started to be more troubled by it. There were moments in the Doctor Who movie. I didn't like the TARDIS set with the Eye of Harmony and all that stuff. That whole room, I thought, please, we didn't need that. That's the hocus pocus rubbish. And I always dressed for the occasion. That didn't seem to fit with the Ainley Doctor, the Delgado Doctor, or the Peter Pratt. You know, I just thought, what are we doing with this? There seems to be an affliction with our writers for quite a while now, for decades, in Doctor Who and TV. It's the superficial. It's surface. And so, like I said, we had Rogue about cosplay aliens. We have a Doctor who says, you know, one of the best things about being a Time Lord, basically, is dressing up. Dressing up. I thought our Doctor of old wanted to right the wrongs, wanted to help the outsiders in each of the planets he landed on. Now it's about dress up. I mean, I feel infantilized.
That's what it is. And it's not good writing, unfortunately. But again, how should we say this? There's a quality in the subtlety of writing, in nuance, where things are set up and there's a payoff at the end. But this is a little bit like having Ncuti Gatwa cry in a scene to try and generate or evoke emotion from the audience, when the most powerful emotive moments are moments where you see that the character is struggling not to cry.
Oh,
and
yeah, absolutely.
Cries on their behalf because you feel that pathos. That's not how they write now. They're trying to dictate to us. This is how, like a laugh track in a comedy show. We want you to laugh at this, so here, let's give you a little bump.
But the other thing was, I found that yet again, I mean, this is me trying to be objective and fair. I'm treating this as season 2 in isolation. Episode 1, who solved the episode? It wasn't the Doctor. Episode 2, who solved the episode? It wasn't the Doctor. Why the hell do we call this Doctor Who? Because Doctor Who does bot all. He might explain a few things because he's lived he's lived on a few of the planets, but that seems to be it. I'm stuck on the wall again. I'm trapped. It was almost. And Devil's Cord was episode 2 as well. And when you had Millie Gibson in the air with all the musical notes, it seemed to be very. Is this deliberate, where he's trying to do a mirror image of the season 1 or something? Because I just thought, we've been here before. And by the way, one of the things in the resolution, when he explained that humans are 60% water, but we can still drown, he used the same dialogue in Tooth and Claw.
Yeah, I remember that.
When he was talking to Rose, and she was talking about the moonlight as well, the moonlight idea, and he talked about being 70% then. But this is just, I mean, he's just going over and over old stuff.
That's continuity, Brendan. He remembered that. He was like, I remember when I said that cool thing once. I'll say it to her now.
Oh, I didn't remember it.
Right. Like you're a fan. You should like that reference.
Is that what we're supposed to? Is that called an Easter egg now? Is that what we call that? I mean,
that's what he's gonna call it.
Yeah, that's what he's gonna call it. It was lazy writing, but he's gonna call it an Easter egg. You did right.
Yeah, why not? And you know, if that's the worst part of the episode, I'm kind of here for it. You know, the episode is a huge roller coaster, and we started down. Like my least favorite part was his acting at the beginning was like gay as a personality type, I guess. Like that was him acting, and I'm like, what? I don't like this. And he's overacting. It wasn't him and Belinda. When they shut up, they're better characters.
maybe so. I mean, I by the way, everybody, when I fill in this bingo card, if it was all red, does that mean it's a good or bad episode? It's for everybody else to judge. But these are obviously some of the tropes of Rtd'S New Who writing. So we had them. I think
it means you've won, but we've lost. You've won the bingo, but we've lost as viewers. That's what it means.
But yeah, so just so you know, I mean, it's got less filled in than last week, and that's what I mean. Is that a good or bad sign? Who knows? But it gives us something to gossip about.
Well, it reinforces what Sonny was saying, that there are still points that someone could enjoy in that episode. Maybe that's what that portends.
Now, one other thing I wanted to mention as we go through, and like I said, there's piles to talk about, but I just want to get your opinions on this. It's the race angle, all right? Because it was there. Now, we had references, people saying, oh, he's got a mention of segregation in this episode, and some people going, oh God, it'll be all preachy and all the rest of it. I have to say, for most of it, I thought there was no problem at all, and Sonny's already outlined some of that as well. So basically, Doctor Who sees the Doctor and Belinda confront racist attitudes in powerful scenes. Actually, I'm not sure they confronted racism, because they argued with the fantasy police officer. And actually, the doctor in the diner said, as you know, Sonny, just right, you shines above it, so to speak. And he did say to Belinda, and let's fair, she's a 2025 modern girl, and he said, save it for later, which I thought was if you're going to mention, well, fair dues, you should mention that there was segregation there if you're going to plonk it in Miami 1952. I mean, it is Doctor Who. You should reference the history. Of course you should. But Belinda, quite rightly, would say, eh? And then, of course, he says, save it for later. We've got a mystery to solve.
Yeah, he's like, let's do the plot. That has nothing to do with the plot of this episode. Let's go do the plot of the episode. He was focused on dead people and trapped in the movie theater. Like, it was right.
Well, I didn't think of it at all. The racist, it completely went out of my head until I read it later on that this was the time of segregation and whatnot. It wasn't mentioned, well, to me, at all. Because if that in that cafe scene, they would have had maybe the signs up, coloured here and whatnot.
It had
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
There was the line where she was sitting away from them, the mother, and she said, if you can bend the rules, I can come talk to them. And then they were like, oh, okay. So that was like them addressing segregation, which I'm pretty sure actually probably happened back then. Like, people will probably break the rules all the time if they were cool about it, right? And if they had things to talk about.
They did, but the problem is it didn't necessarily advance the plot. So here you brought to the table something that should be an issue, but isn't germane to the story. So why are you doing this?
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely virtue signaling, but I guess at least it wasn't sledgehammer virtue signaling, so I was relieved for that.
For what we're supposed to get, it's supposed to be a lot worse based off of his history and what he's been saying. Like, it should have been a lot worse. That's why I say you got to praise him for his restraint. He actually did something kind of tasteful. Like, it didn't play into the plot. Like, it's bad writing. He's dumb, but
I agree with and he's backing you up, Mr. Squintymin. Again, I thought the race angle was as well handled as you would expect in 43 minutes. Right. I agree.
Exactly. Well said.
I think, and Sonny mentioned it a lot earlier, but the line when he said he will just get on and shine, and you thought, yeah. It's just it just felt clunky to say to Belinda, basically, park your offense at the racism. I mean, you think, well, I know, but it hits you at your core if you're segregated from a diner, for God's sake.
That might make it effective.
What about this then? When she said to the Mr. Ring-a-Ding, are you supposed to be a man? You've got a nose like a pig and you're blue. Now, was this another racial dig type thing that, racial slurs and stuff in cartoons?
I don't know. That just made no sense to me.
Yeah. That sounds
was it more down to just his limited vocabulary? Like when he had to dance, he said he had no choice but to dance when he wanted to chase them up the
It's just because I'm only saying this because it could be a slur. I remember, from the Tom and Jerry originals that they said that she was always in a dressing gown, I thought, with slippers, but she was obviously a Southern mama, wasn't she? And now that's seen as problematic by some people. And so I'm just wondering, are we having a gentle dig at the cartoons of the time? Because why was she saying this? Again, I have to ask, why is this dialogue in? Because I don't know where it was taking me.
That's what I thought. It just seems superfluous. I didn't.
Well, it was a little mean-spirited, which is in keeping with Belinda's behavior. If you stop and remember the last episode, she's not very sensitive to the mindsets of the people around her. I mean, I'm just going to project myself. Oh, this animated person has come to life, and the first thing I'm going to do is dig on their appearance. I'm going to poke at them and insult them. That's not my first knee-jerk reaction, but it was hers.
Wasn't very realistic, was it?
Now you see, on the race angle, you in the Shakespeare Code, for example, you had Martha faced, of course she would. I'm not going to get carted off as a slave, am I? And David Tennant, why? Well, I'm not exactly white, in case you haven't noticed. That was more on the nose, actually, if you go back to the first era. And then and then the Doctor has a bit of a cavalier attitude again. I'm not even human. Walk about like you own the place. It works for me. Besides, you'd be surprised. Oh, God, that's a bit... I mean, okay, you can... I like the line about rising above it a bit more and shining now. I think this version's a bit clunkier. Just walk as if you own the place. You're facing segregation or various issues to do with race. I don't think how you walk is going to make any blooming difference, is it?
No.
Well, what you have to do is look at the demographic population in Britain during Elizabethan times. There was such a radically small percentage of people that would have been there that fit that profile that you didn't have space for the kind of institutionalized segregation that America or South Africa were able to wave around. So it would be more a case of the local populace not sure how to react to someone of a different color, but the precept that, I'm going to look down on you because of it had not yet been set.
And of course, this is a reminder of the end of Dot and Bubble. He hit the race issue last year. When he wanted to apparently save white supremacists, which again, the message to me made no sense at all.
You didn't like that, Sonny?
It was a bunch of gobbledygook nonsense. It was almost a good / great episode. Then the Doctor started talking, bro. I was no. What are you doing? I don't know why he said half of
it. So I was just showing you some elements where we've faced this in different ways under RTD before. Okay, so I think we need to kind of actually get into the reads of classifying this episode and actually inviting you to then talk about so many other parts of it. And of course, everybody in the thread, please join us in that. It gets tricky, this. Here we go. Okay, so as you know, in our classification quest, we actually try and look at the episode in its entirety, and we try and kind of give it, its classification. Is there any trigger warning there? Are there any issues regarding, who it's for, who it's not for, that sort of thing? So, Christian, just taking a look at this, and obviously, I don't want to get too kind of, rigid about this. It just invites you to talk about other parts of the episode as well. But just on that top bit, in essence, what did we watch there? What genre was that?
It felt like fantasy. You had musical elements in it. You had a couple of moments of soap opera in it. And supposedly we had a murder mystery approach to it. But altogether, as an umbrella, it feels like fantasy to me.
Yeah, it's one of those you could tick a lot of boxes in a way as references, couldn't you? But in its entirety, yeah, you're saying it was fantasy. I fear that's where we're going with where this would end up. Paul, if you look at that and what was in the yellow then, in those 43 minutes, what vibe did it have for you? Of what type of genre?
Fantasy, sci-fi, adventure, maybe a little bit romance with the projectionist. Now, I was thinking that this was one of the few stories where nobody dies, but he does die, doesn't he? He doesn't come out of the...
Yeah, he seems to... Yeah. But you see, this is again the problem, Paul. I mean, I've got so many notes for tonight, but you've mentioned the moment there, which is, where's the jeopardy? 15 people were dead.
Yeah.
Or trapped in the celluloid, which I thought was a brilliantly gruesome image. It was brilliant. And they all come out the doors at the end. So why did it... You see, I think if he keeps doing this, I think a lot of people, not fans, will just start to say, what is the point of me committing to these 43 minutes? Because it's very meta, it's very silly, some would say, and actually nobody dies. I can't engage with anybody, so why should I bother watching? And when you see those 15 people come out the door, I just thought, well, what a load of... And that's the giggle again. The man who was turned into a puppet, and at the end he becomes a human again. So why am I watching?
There was a scene in original Star Trek where a couple of Kirk's crewmen are turned into cubes, and the villain picks up one of the cubes in front of him and crushes it.
Yeah.
And then lets him know this person is dead, and then reanimates the other one. And it let the audience know very clearly that there are stakes in this situation. That person is not coming back.
Yeah.
We didn't get any of that sense from this until, I guess, Projectionist Pi sacrificed himself at the end. But he wasn't one of the initial 15.
Can I just say, what do you think the story was going to be if the Doctor hadn't just landed there? Because
who knows?
No, but what I mean is he's got all these pantheons of gods all appearing everywhere, right? So, oh wow, isn't this exciting? But can I just pull back a bit here? If the Doctor hadn't needed to land there with his Vindicator nonsense, then what would that pantheon have done? Because the moonlight would have still hit the spoon, and still.
Yeah, would it have, though? This is what's been bothering me. By the way, I think this episode could have been an excellent horror episode, and that's what I thought it was going to be. But to your point, I think, whether it's obvious or not, I think it's all supposed to be that the Doctor is drawn to these places and they're kind of waiting for him. Because you're right, why would they be there otherwise? There's no point. It's as if you had a screeching of brakes and this, the Lux Imperator just said suddenly, oh, well, now I know it's you. I'll go 3D. And I thought, so what, as a god, you were just happy to stay in a Miami 1952 cinema with 15 Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What?
For like 6 months, apparently, right at the end. They said he was there for 6 months.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. In this cleverness that RTD thinks he's presenting to us, the holes are there. He thinks he's glued together this series on the fantasy theme and all these gods. But the more gods are out on the loose and causing destruction in some cases and playing merry hell everywhere, what if the Doctor hadn't needed to land there, and in this case it was fluke, what was going to be happening then?
It probably wasn't a fluke, though, was it? I mean, yeah.
Well,
It wasn't. I don't think it was.
If you guys remember, what was it? Not the Doctor's wife. Maybe it was that. The TARDIS is personified in the body of a woman, and lets him know that she kind of guides him where he needs to be. That she's aware of the universe in a way that a mortal being is not, and thus brings him to that place. But it's been a long time since that kind of a reminder has been plugged into the narrative. That's not happening. And instead, what we're getting is a lot of rehashes. This is a rehash of Devil's Cord in many ways, as he defeats another of the pantheon of gods.
And that's what I mean. Cybermat Strikes, who was obviously, as Doug knows, one of our detoxers, I would have scrapped the gods and just played with the horror of the cartoon. You could afford to be very scary with a cartoon character.
Yeah. You're just so right, Dan. You're always right, Dan. That's exactly what I thought.
As RTD says here, remember when you were young and you thought all those people were actually inside the television? I'm not sure, really, if I really...
I ain't come across it anyway.
I think he thinks we were all stupid.
Yeah, for sure.
And actually, God, I've got so many different things to show you at different times. But Michael Herbert, who obviously did the biography of Malcolm Hulke, he's given me his reactions like everybody else. And he mentioned Sapphire and Steel, Julie Coonan as well, that it actually looked more like a Sapphire and Steel episode than it did a Doctor Who episode. And I didn't enjoy Sapphire and Steel, and I was a Doctor Who fan. So isn't it fascinating? I couldn't cope with I couldn't cope with it. Squinty Mint, the Toymaker Maestro turn up long before he arrives in the present day, so I'm not understanding Brendan's point. Right, how do I explain? If the Doctor didn't arrive, the Toymaker would have just owned Earth, wouldn't he? That would have been it all sorted out. Yeah. Now, the giggle is mentioned in this. We hear the same laugh. Is that just saying I'm another harbinger, or is there a hint that the Toymaker will be back in the resolution as well with Mrs. Flood? I think so. So, just to remind everybody, the reactions to this episode are all over the shop. You've got people here giving it 9 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's very divisive.
Some enjoyed it, but the scene with the fans I just found cringy. But then you've got people saying stuff like, Simon Anthony, I hope you get better soon. And now he says, can you imagine if he was on tonight? He says, now watch it again and think of it as a humorous parody of the show with the same name. Ask yourself these questions. Is it entertaining TV? Is it fun? Is it thought-provoking? Is it historically educational? Don't ask, is it canon? Does it make sense? Has it got a strong plot? Because it doesn't. I'm happy with that. Now, can you imagine if he was on tonight? Trigger time. But
I would be defending the low key.
Actually, Simon Anthony has a very good point. In my mind.
Does have a good point. He does have.
We want to be able to enjoy something and put a lot of the stuff aside. But that's the problem with a property like Doctor Who, which has reached what I consider to be epic cultural status. It fills a different niche, and that means the standards by which it's going to be judged are going to be a lot higher. And people that are devoted to it are going to look to make sure that there is quality control that's consistent with what they've come to expect. And when that quality control is gone, they're going to be unhappy.
I think you all remember Dame Edna, Barry Humphries. And he had a character you hardly ever saw, Sandy Stone. And I remember my mum and dad when I took them to see Barry Humphries in Brisbane. And Sandy Stone is a kind of ghost old person, isn't he? It's kind of it. And my mum just said that was the best scene, and it was comedic but dark. And he had all these dancing ghosts in an old people's home. It was really moving. Why am I talking about that? Because I thought the projectionist story was interesting. I engaged with it. Good old Linus Roach, William Roach's son from Coronation Street. But I didn't get, you see, when you do a 43-minute simple plot, the bit when his ghost memory wife gave him the matches, well, why the hell would she do that?
Yeah.
Because the matches moment is key. The doctor was about to die. End of.
Yeah.
He couldn't save himself. And his companion, the only bit she could do is say, I need to get some matches, and kept banging on the blooming door. And thank God he was hallucinating that his wife, who he normally hallucinates he's dancing with, suddenly give him the matches. Now, I thought the Mr. Ring-a-Ding was in charge of his kind of memories because he made him movie reels of his wife dancing with him. So why would Mr. Ring-a-Ding suddenly say he's the matches?
Yeah, the matches thing didn't make sense, but that particular part of the story was what I thought they could have done so much with it, and the horror aspect of the people being trapped in the celluloid, and it could have been dark and it could have been sinister. I actually think that we're giving the show too much credit. I think what happened was they were all down the pub one day, and Rtd said, we're working with Disney now, why don't we do something that revolves around some sort of animation or cartoon? And then they try to hang a story around it. That's what it feels like to me.
And that's why, I mean, did everybody notice the great spoon and thought, do you know what? Why was the spoon in the Empire of Death episode? Because I still don't know. And
because he was at the pub having soup, probably.
Yeah, but then the spoon appears again. I'm starting to worry about what is this series all about. I mean,
spoons.
Spoon.
Well, what he's doing is he's continuing, I still think, by the seat of his pants, putting stories together. But at the last minute, will try and reference back to things that he will try and force into a narrative at the conclusion. Now, sometimes...
Yes, that's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what he's doing.
He's not planned... I don't think he's really planned through this, but I won't be surprised if when he did this story, he said, you know what, I'm going to revisit the spoon element again when we get to the finale, because I already plugged it in last year and this time at least once, and he'll make something out of it, but that wasn't the initial plan.
I mean, Mr. Squinty Mint is answering my question, which is nice of you. It's just, don't you think, Mr. Squinty Mint, that's just too neat? You know, the doctor is in peril, an existential crisis. And the only thing that saves it is a sudden change of mind by the projectionist, who all the way up to before then actually quite liked being trapped with his wife and her memories. That's how the Mr. Ring-a-Ding had control over him. So how come he suddenly changed his mind? Because there wasn't any great dialogue from the doctor to spark an idea. I get what you're saying, Mr. Squinty, but I don't get how he suddenly had that realization just as the doctor's about to die.
That was a good point that you brought up there, maybe unintentionally. Do you remember when they first introduced Ncuti's doctor? He was supposed to be the one that had his crap together. He was supposed to be the one that was all in the right place. And from that episode onwards, he's been the absolute opposite of that. I mean, when they introduced him, he was supposed to be the healed doctor, and now all this stuff is coming up, and he's far from the healed doctor. I'm very confused.
What do you make, while I'm on it, Belinda and the doctor? I saw Matrix Lord mention it earlier, that she completely loves him, as in, is starting to really believe in him. I thought they were going to argue all the time, but she seems to be getting pretty convinced. She kissed him on the hand at the end, which I found was a bit strange. Yeah. I'm starting to wonder if she's the trap. I'm starting to wonder if she is clearly not what she appears to be.
No, that would be interesting.
Because Mrs. Flood was waving her goodbye last week.
Right.
And if Mrs. Flood has planned all this in some way, playing the long game, And she, she is the reason why eventually he will get her back to May the 24th, but only when Mrs. Flood's had time to deal with whatever she wanted to set up as a trap. I think
I'm up for that.
I think this
Oh,
is
I'm up for that, yeah.
This is the Pandorica again, I think, in a way, which is, the Harbingers, all the pantheons of gods, have created a Pandorica trap for the Doctor at the end, and it's about reality or being trapped in something meta. I'm thinking.
No, that makes sense. I'd kind of be up for that if it's done properly.
Yeah, that would be fun, but I don't believe in the Belinda heel turn. I think she would be a better villain. I said that last week, I'm pretty sure. I just don't see it happening.
No, I don't either.
Well, as we get here, she's the Rani. I was saying it the other day. He wasn't that clever last year. Sue Tech. I mean, it was right under our nose, wasn't it? The Sue Tech and the Susan Twist. She's the Rani, flood, rain, blah, blah, blah. Flood, Rani meaning, sorry, I'm getting mixed up here on what I was going to say. It'll come back to me. So, yeah, we had the Scooby-Doo adventure, and we got on with it. I was bought into this for about 20 minutes. The projectionist getting a bit scared, worried about it, thinking, and, don't go there, don't do this. That to raise segregation again, which is fine. So I was up for this.
It started well. The best bits were before the Doctor actually arrived. I thought they set it up very well. It had a lovely 1950s feel. I was going to praise the set decoration, but I found out by watching Unleashed they used an existing cinema.
And even
the exterior was an existing cinema, and they only set dressed it ever so slightly. So really the credit should go to the location scout or guide or whatever they're called. But it was beautiful, but it was already a pre-existing cinema,
So give us the seal of Razalon. We do this every week at the moment. Was that Doctor Who? Was that Doctor Who? Or was that Doctor No? Christian?
It felt, last time I said Doctor No, this feels like Doctored Who to me. So I'm going a step up.
Okay. Doug?
Look, I'm sorry. The whole series has been Doctor No for me. That's been my whole issue. This show has had some interesting episodes, but none of them have been Doctor Who.
Yeah. Sonny?
This was Doctor Who. It was episodic. There was a beginning, middle, end. I laughed. It's actually entertaining for what it is. It's a roller coaster for sure, and there's plenty of bad stuff that you can say about it, but I felt Doctor Who. I was pleasantly surprised to watch it. I was pleasantly surprised to watch it.
Well, as Paul, what are your thoughts?
I think it was Doctor Who, but you could also have doctored the Who by taking out that entire bit with the fans. You could clip that out.
Oh, yes.
Have a 4-minute shorter episode, and it would be the same.
You can do that with a lot of
let's get to this issue while we're at it. Right. Last week we went on about the veterans, and it was a fascinating discussion. I didn't see any other reviews really going on this. What you've just said there, Paul, I think is one of the key points that this episode raises. And it's been something I mention nearly every week, but I think it proved it more today. It was a 43-minute episode, slightly shorter than Sontaran Experiment in its duration. And you think of what you saw when you saw something like the Sontaran Experiment as a two-parter. You had proper jeopardy. It felt very adult. Great world building. God, you had torture and everything in it. In this one, like I said, for about the first 20 minutes, which could have been a classic part 1, I think we had Doctor Who. Now, you can say whether your 15th Doctor's your Doctor or not, but I'm going to be honest and fair. I think for the first 20 minutes, you could almost say that's a Doctor Who episode, good or bad, compared to McCoy, whatever.
It started very well. I will agree with that.
But this is where it goes wrong, because I think take the 4.5 minutes out with the fan meta stuff, although it might be very relevant to later on, we might find. And then the next 20 minutes is kind of him rambling and getting a little bit confused with various sins, confusing the audience, I should say. Yeah. And I think, and I think you said it, Christian, I think in that story there was a chance for a very good story, but he completely missed the goal. It was an open goal. As people have said in the thread, you could have gone dark on this. You could have gone real horror with the cartoon character.
I really thought this was going to be the one, Brendan. This is the one I was looking forward to.
You've got the graphics ready. So basically, just imagine we've got part one, Doctor Who classic tick. Now we just develop it and explore it and have a few cliffhangers where, you know, the perils of Pauline and just getting... Why do we have to stick to this rigid, nonsense, superficial formula of it's a reset at the end, nobody really dies apart from the projectionist, who cares, next?
Yeah, well, when I was looking at this, I think I mentioned if I had written the story, I would have written it differently. Does anyone remember an episode, Flatline?
Yeah,
I loved Flatline as a concept. You've got entities coming from another dimension. They're finding a way to manifest in this one. I really enjoyed that. But I thought it was a brilliant episode, and I thought, I would have taken this. You have entities coming from another arena. We don't know what dimension, and they're able to somehow animate through light characters like this, and they are a genuine threat, just like the Flatliners were in that particular story.
That's what I thought we were going to get. I was so disappointed.
I was really hoping you'd get that.
Yeah, me too.
And we needed at least a 2-part story to really dig into it. At least.
I've got New Who hater here. Brendan needs to stop talking about bloody Doctor Who and New Who for 5 minutes. It'll be the end of it.
We can talk about Man from U.N.C.L.E. if you want.
Yeah, we'll talk about a completely different program because that's what it seems to be. Kes the Drone, the beginning felt like a horror trope build up and then it fell off a cliff. And that's such a shame. But that's why I referenced 73 Yards, because he did the same blooming thing again. He hasn't actually learned. There's something going on here. There's a lack of discipline, really. He's trying to be very clever, he would argue. But in trying to be clever, he misses the dramatic point. I lose my focus as a viewer. 1 minute, I'm bothered about being trapped in there, those celluloid 15. And I actually thought when he turned the two projectors on them to turn them into two-dimensional cartoons, they were like Daleks aiming at him. I thought, do you know what? There's a hell of an idea here. And he just, but like I said, you say he fell off a cliff, the plot did. I got distracted by the fan nonsense. I got distracted by the framing. That got too clever. You know, let's push the frame. Let's push the fourth wall. Let's do this. No.
How stupid that they got forgotten about those victims. It started so well, and then they just forgot about them until they resurfaced at the end. What was the point?
Well, it reminded me of the pavement in that awful episode Love and Monsters, when you know that the girlfriend ended up as the pavement.
Yeah.
The slab, and that was a horror. I mean, some thought it was sexually funny, but no, it was horrific. And when you saw that man scream in the celluloid, I thought, this is brilliant. This is
Yes.
Now that would have been a great end to episode 1. That Belinda picks up a celluloid and goes, "Oh my God, he's alive!" End of episode 1.
Yeah.
Why doesn't RTD want? Right, okay then. He's got one good idea. Forget that blooming stupid gods and everything. He's got one good idea of a horror cartoon character, and let's just say he's got another good idea with robots. Let's just go with 2 ideas, split them over 4 episodes each. There's your season.
Yeah, exactly.
Do it.
Absolutely.
Your issue is Rtd'S and hack. Like you're upset with the way he structures his stories, and he's focusing on the wrong things at the wrong time. Like you can really cut out half of this episode and it doesn't affect the plot. But you know, some of those stuff were good character moments, and so it's like, he doesn't know what to focus on when. And I disagree with the Robot Revolution could use 4 episodes. That would have been cool. I think this worked really well as a New Who episode, 45 minutes, if he focused on the right things. Like we cut out the stuff that didn't matter. We added in more horror scenes and maybe more.
It would have been so good.
Yeah,
dark
it would have been
cinema, spooky. Oh, it could have been so good.
It would have been.
It really been a Torchwood episode.
Yeah.
The thing is, there is a real problem here that we are just seeing it too, because it's 43 to 45 minutes. We keep getting the same trap. He knows how to just about set it up for the first 15 or 20 minutes. And then he knows he's got to rush to a conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it all goes off the rails every week.
But he wouldn't have to rush if he was focused on the plot still, right? If he didn't take the time out to draw out that death scene, if he didn't take the death scene that didn't happen, like if he didn't take the time to virtue signal, like, and not even really go into it, but like,
yeah, now
I understand the point.
Now, Rachel, I haven't brought in yet. Lovely, Rachel. Good to see you, Rachel, and thanks for sticking with us. She'll be with us 5:45 tomorrow night. They shouldn't have been cartoons. They should have been trapped as live action in the 2D animation. That's an interesting point you're making, Rachel, because I think when he wanted to show off the budget and he made them 2D and then had the interesting dialogue, that once you've got backstory, you flesh yourself out, blah, blah, blah. But by getting trapped in this cartoon thing, I think we got trapped with the framing and we got trapped with all that nonsense. And in the end, he went down a rabbit hole when he actually needed to stick to, as we all seem to be saying, they're stuck in the cinema. There's a cartoon character on the loose, and just stick at that. What do you think of Rachel's idea that instead of the cartoon characters and 2D, that they actually stay,
That's a great idea, and it goes back to my original comment. I genuinely think he probably thought, let's do an animated episode because it's Disney, and then built a story around it. They could have made more of a horror out of it. The character could have been a horror, a vampire or something that was in the cinema that came to life, and it could have had so many clever tropes to past horror movies, and it could have been the whole idea about being in a dark cinema when you're watching a horror movie. The feeling that you get could have been really capitalized on, and instead they turned it into this.
Now, I look, I'll please come in because I'm like I say, I'm trying to read sort of things at the same time. As we're saying here, and good to see you. I was bored because it was literally Devil's Card again. And I was thinking all the way through. This is when Julie Gardner and Jane Tranter, I thought, would have been on their game, because they would have said, RTD, interesting idea, first 20 minutes. But when he's dragged by the celluloid up the stairs, isn't that almost identically the same scene as Ruby Sunday with the musical notes? And when
thought that.
Yeah. And when he gets trapped in the drum, we've got the Doctor's stuffed again. I mean, the Doctor didn't save himself in the Devil's Card. It had to be the blooming John Lennon, didn't it? It was like, that was it. And in this one, it was just a box of matches, really. I mean, and so there were too many parts. And Devil's Card tried to think it was doing something dark because, of course, when the Doctor and Ruby ran away and hid, and then the Maestro's looking for them, I suppose you could say that's a bit like the beginning of this. And if you just look at the format, it's the same thing. The Devil's Card was solved by this nonsense kind of, if you hit a certain chord, bang, stuffed it. And if you think about how was the Maestro born, the Maestro just appeared because a certain Devil's Card was touched, right? Again, my question is, what would have happened if the Doctor didn't need to land there? Because, these gods are just appearing everywhere, and it's just chaos.
That's right.
So in this one, it was a spoon. I mean, has the moonlight not shone on any other metal surface in the universe? That's my other big blooming question here, which is, what? A bit of moonlight touches a spoon and fires onto some celluloid, and so the pantheon of a god appears.
Yeah,
it's never... Yeah. There's been no light refraction anywhere else in the universe.
It's special. You just don't know it yet. He's setting it up. It's going to get paid off in 5 episodes, I guess.
Yeah, he always pays off. We know it'll get paid off. He does that so well. We're going to be so satisfied.
It was such a satisfying payoff in Empire.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Have confidence that RTD is going to do it again. We're going to be so happy.
We just got our first good episode after 9 episodes.
I'm losing confidence in this panel. I've lost it.
Thank you.
Honestly, yeah. That I'm going to be the one god of Ragnarok left. You're all So, yeah, well, we had Sue turned into a dog to solve last season. So this season, does Mrs. Flood turn into a cat? I mean, I'm just trying to work out what the hell happens.
Yeah.
This bit, you see, I think is very neat visually, but it's all hocus pocus. You know, let's pull the frames really fast. I mean, my God, you'd have to be blooming fit to do that. Bang, bang, bang. Because when you work it out, you're going, that's 24 frames a second. Oh my God. I mean,
it was very dumb. That took me out of the entire moment.
Yeah.
I was like, what is happening? And then like I wanted to understand like the powers or like the logic behind the universe and stuff, but it wasn't really there.
Well, that's why I say fantasy. But this does remind me of Warner Brothers Looney Tune cartoons because they.
I was about to say that there was actually a Bugs Bunny episode where he was caught in the film that very same way.
Oh,
yeah. Well, and what was that, Christian?
Oh, it's just we've seen this before. We've seen this in animated shorts. So RTD really does struggle to come up with something original.
Yes. Why is he the showrunner? I mean, honestly, that scene, I'm going to match up with Devil's Card. It's the same trick, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, we had all this kind of. I have to say, I've seen a lot of fans today saying, "Look, if you were younger kids watching Doctor Who, there was a slight tinge of darkness in the early part of the episode, and then what he turns into is pretty gruesome. It's great. Not that, But when he really starts to, get bigger and all the rest of it, I mean, it's just like a giant robot, I suppose, isn't it? It's just, but.
This is actually scary for me. And I scare easily, but like Doctor Who never really like gave me a nightmare or anything. But this is like right where I want it to be as far as scariness. For me, at least. I thought it was great.
Yeah, there we go. Look at that. I mean, if you're playing around with cartoons and you're playing around with this whole concept, I think you've got the kids at this point. It's just I don't know why we. Can you imagine? I'm trying to imagine being 6, 7, 8 years old, which of course RTD wants that group watching Doctor Who. So just like I was watching Genesis of the Daleks Part 1 when I was 6, can you imagine being 6 now and you see a cartoon character come to life? I think there's a lot of stuff there. But then also, can you imagine being a 6-year-old and then it has a bit where the fans aren't real and they die? And the
Doctor stopped being scared for sure. This episode was missing a jump scare. That's about it.
That's a good point, actually. I think it's the jump scares we need.
I think it needed a jump scare too, but I also, to make the character more sinister, I would have had him take one of the victims on celluloid and crumple it up. This person is not coming back. Can you bring back the others?
Jeopardy,
just letting them know that this is not going to work. It wouldn't have had Lynn pathos if it was the son of the mother that they had spoken to in the cafe. That's the one person who doesn't come out, and she's expecting to see him at the end.
That would have worked so well.
Yeah.
And I think he painted those characters a bit better than last week. I actually, what's her face last week, Mrs. 55, whatever she was called. I couldn't give it. The fact that she was dead, who cared? But this week, when you had the mother missing her 16-year-old, and I thought that scene worked quite well in the diner, and I thought that's good. You've got me engaged. I'm actually bothered. And the projectionist story I kind of liked as well. And I thought, well, in 43 minutes, you've got me bothered about 2 characters. You haven't got me too bothered about the Doctor and Belinda moaning about getting... Oh, here's my big question, panel. Big question. Killer question. Right, I'm going to go big on this one because he needs the Vindicator to get them back because that TARDIS, that pesky TARDIS won't get back to 24th of May. So why doesn't he just take her to the 23rd of May?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, you asked a question about the episode? What are you doing?
That is a big one.
It'd be a short series, though, wouldn't it? It'd be a 2-episode series.
I don't know. The thing is, I mean, doesn't he need? I mean, he doesn't want. He doesn't need a clever ass. He just needs somebody who goes. But what about that bit? And then he can throw away a line. You know, you just if you're a good writer, you can throw away a line to get around that. But he keeps doing every week. It looks like the TARDIS just won't go to the 24th of May. Now, when you're in education, they say, you know, what does an idiot do? The idiot always repeats the same mistake.
Yeah.
Doctor, you're supposed to be wise. Stop making the same mistake. Land on the 23rd of May at midnight. Try that one. Or the 23rd of May at 11:30 at night. Just try it. Try the 25th of May and try and go backwards. I mean, come on. I mean,
it's an easy fix narratively, and all he has to do is a one-off remark. The next scene, the next episode, they try midnight, or they try half past 11, and he says something's very aware we're trying to reach that date because this hasn't worked. I'm going to try something different next time. We'll try for the 25th or the 26th. We're going to go one day beyond. Let's see if that gives us any options. And then if he's blocked again, he's going to say, okay, something's obviously on the outside, and we've got to figure out what that is to address it. But he's not using his brain, or the writer is not using.
Well, hey, look, there's 5 executive producers on this program. I mean, come on. Does anybody? There is a script editor. Surely the script editor just goes, we need to just kind of check that out. Because let's face it, one of my questions I asked you all at the very beginning is, if you were just a normal TV viewer digging around for something dramatic and entertaining to watch, how can he get away with an episode where there was hardly any explanation of by generation, this, that, and the other? And I asked that at the beginning. When you ask this as well, you just start to think the casual viewer would just say, that's stupid. That the Doctor Who's gone stupid. Whereas I will always posit, if you started watching Genesis of the Daleks as a casual viewer, you would have been wrapped into that world. It would have almost seemed realistic because it was basically World War I on Skaro. Yeah. And then we get sucked into the man in the wheelchair. I know it's not a wheelchair, but that's how it looks to a casual viewer. Oh, he's a Dalek. And then we fall in. And they do seem very Nazi, so therefore you go into that. I think a casual viewer would have been sold with Genesis of the Daleks and bought into the concept. Whereas this is like, oh, what?
Mm-hmm. Well, doesn't RTD brag about no one being willing to question him or challenge him on anything? Maybe his script editor is afraid to say, dang, this is a problem. I'm not going to tell him. Are you? No, I'm not going to tell him. Okay, it's fine, boss.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
If I wrote to him on Instagram, he'd tell me to F off because you know how he actually talks to people.
Yeah, he's done it. He's done it.
But that's not toxic, RTD. That's not toxic. No. You're teaching me how to be a good person. Thank you. Stephen Braddock, Brendan, no, because they're all scared to question RTD. As he said, no one would say no to him. Exactly. And in the same interview, Stephen, it was interesting because he said he doesn't want to let Jane and Julie down.
Sweet. What a sweet man.
It's lovely because their shares a tank. That's why. So how would you do? Well, okay then. Free for all here, lads. Just for a few minutes before we move on to a scary item, so to speak. Are there any trigger warnings you'd have on the video or the Blu-ray packaging for this episode? Are there any trigger warnings, concerns you have?
For the fans, for sure. Maybe not for children, because the one scene probably should have been a WTF was that random scene where the couple was kissing in the beginning of the episode in the movie theater in the back. They just flashed to it randomly for no reason. And they were just establishing like the characters, I guess, like the people who were going to get kidnapped. And I don't know. It was just very weird to see adults doing that with kids in the theater watching a cartoon. It was just, I was like, why?
Yeah. Christian, your thoughts? Trigger warnings?
I'm going to go back with woke, and it's sad because that's such an umbrella term. It covers so many items. But the problem now is I'm very highly sensitized. So even if he's able to deliver something that is partially good, And as a lot of people are saying, the first act or so seemed to work for them. There are so many agenda-driven moments that take me out of the story. It's going to spoil the effect for it, and not the least of which is the way he addresses his perception of the fans.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It destroys it, and that's a symptom of wokery.
Well, they're arguing about whether Brendan should make another bingo card. Another type of bingo card where Rtd gets something right. The doctor,
maybe a short game. That'd be a very short game.
On paper. You've got Paul Holgate here. Trigger warning: the show's crap. Matrix Lord, trigger warning: this episode gets the show cancelled again. Now, Matrix Lord is quite supportive of this era, and oh dear me.
Wow, he's turned.
Tomboy chick. Oh, the couple snogging. Is that why we needed an intimacy coordinator?
Maybe.
I know. It's shocking now. You can't touch each other anymore, can you? Adrian Sherlock, good to see you. You'll be dumber if you watch this. Trigger warning. I mean, you can feel a love for this episode, can't you? I mean, it's scored so big. It's just that every time, can I just check on this, everyone? Every time the Doctor has a slower moment, a character moment, when you do need a bit of dialogue, the moment was in the diner, fair dues, and a nice little bit then, and then the other bit was having a cup of tea talking to fans.
Yeah.
That was the problem. If you'd had another moment like sitting down talking to the projectionist, which I think could have been explored a lot more, because you could have sown the seeds of him having a sudden change of mind at the end with the box of matches. Mm-hmm. This was unnecessary. What do you think, Paul, about this? You do need a moment when the Doctor stops. It's a bit like in School Reunion. The Doctor was fixing K9 in the coffee shop, and he got to talk to Sarah. You need a moment like that.
I wasn't sure whether they were supposed to know that this was a fact, or they were still in the dream world of the animation, or what. I just lost the concept of it totally. Who was talking to who? Which bit was real? Which bit wasn't? It just lost us off completely at that point for a little bit until they got back to the cinema again, and the story started again after the 4 minutes.
And when you have that, if you have that thought, people might switch over, or they won't tune in next week. I mean, Doug, you watch your movies on your channel and you review them and all the rest of it. But for a fact, you have for every moment you have an action adventure, car chase, and all the rest of it. You have to have a moment when it slows down and you do some character development. But I felt as though he missed opportunities in this. Am I fair?
Yeah, well, exactly you are. You didn't really care about anybody. I would have liked more time spent with the projectionist, find out more about his backstory that they touched on, and I would have probably liked a little bit more time with maybe the 15 victims. They were thrown away. I didn't care whether they came back or not. There was nothing to make me care about anybody. I think we could have had less meta stuff. We could have had less running around. We could have spent a bit more time with the character. Like, the old disaster movies, the Towering Inferno and stuff, they spent about the first half an hour of the movie getting to know, they were all cliches, but you spend the first half an hour of the movie getting to know the characters and getting to like them a little bit, and then they'd gradually kill them off one by one, but they did it in a way that, he was nice, she was lovely. In this one, there was I didn't care. And then they came back anyway.
Well, you see, for example, right, look, I'm going to talk to the panel, but I'll be talking through the panel to Rtd. It's very it's very meta.
That's very clever. Very clever.
But, right, we all love Robots of Death. It's a classic. It's like a base under siege, but it's got wheels on. You know what I mean? There's that kind of, right? So,
yeah.
And as you know, it's a whodunit in a way that, one by one, people are picked off. It's very Agatha Christie, right? And we all love it, probably for those reasons, as well as the great designs. So in this great idea of this cinema and this cartoon character, and we know there's 15 trapped, you have part 1 and part 2 signed and sealed there, some of the people going missing. And each one, you follow their story for a couple of minutes, and then they disappear.
Yeah.
You build in the whodunit, the murder mystery. You could even do a second Scooby-Doo joke if you want, RTD. But the point is, for now 15 minutes, you've had 2 episodes of Jeopardy, people going missing, the Doctor very perplexed, and now and again a touch of the cartoon character. Can you imagine in the old days when you saw the pterodactyl claw or something else like that, or the Zygon moving the hand? Instead, you saw a cartoon hand. Can you imagine being a kid going, whoa, what the, what? All that stuff. Honestly, RTD, please explain to me why you don't think going back to an episodic formula with cliffhangers wouldn't have made that story, your idea, brilliant.
It would have made it so much better. And they could have had the character like, was it the movie It with the clown? The way there were some scenes in that movie where you see a hand or an eye, and that was so scary. That's what I was expecting. I'll be honest. That's what I was expecting from this episode. And to do it in that way that you suggested, Brendan, would have been fantastic. And I would have been hooked from the start.
It would have hooked me. Basically, you're extending the story, but you're giving depth to the character. Good writer,
you want to care about them. Yeah.
You move the plot at the same time and with the same dialogue that helps develop the characters that you have on the screen.
Yep.
And sometimes it's a trick shot. You've got a limited number of minutes. You want to make sure that you move the story forward, but you reveal something about the character that the audience needs to know. And I don't think RTD is exercising that particular skill set when he's putting his stories together.
Well, the thing that sort of the story towards the end hung on was when she asked for the matches and she said, "I know you smoke because I can see the stains on your fingers."
Yeah.
You didn't see that at any time in the story. Because on the second time, I made a special look to look at his fingers every time they were in shot, and you couldn't see anything. So that was just plucked out of the air.
That's what I mean. Doctor Who's written now like one of those computer games where basically as you go through the levels, you pick up a wand and you pick up all the bits and bobs because later on you might need them.
What do they call it? Chekhov's gun or something they call it, don't they? Yeah.
I can't buy into that. You know, you just say, okay, in every level of my computer game, I'll just grab everything. You know, and it just seems to me that, honestly, if you're a dramatist, why wouldn't you prefer, especially because then he can preserve a lot of his ideas for the season 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm not saying anything genius. All I'm doing is saying what I think every Doctor Who fan would say, which is, why don't you just do Doctor Who? And actually, RTD, you'd look a lot better because you'd have scared the kids. You'd have actually got higher ratings. We'd have had our cliffhangers back. You'd have actually probably written a classic. And because that's why I mentioned Robots of Death, because it was a fantastic, neat story by Chris Boucher, but it wasn't genius in the way that it was just basically a whodunit and on a sand miner. But with a good cast and good design and good dialogue, you're away with it. I think RTD can do the good dialogue. There were some nice touches in this episode. He just needed to make it more Doctor Who, less soap, less nonsense, less fantasy. And you would have maybe had a classic on your hands there. I feel like I'm Alan Sugar now saying you're fired. Now, Sir X-Man, very generous of you. Hello. Thank you. I know, because actually I can see when somebody does a super chat. What happened to the lit-up guitar thing he had? Is that in the TARDIS?
You put it back in the TARDIS, I think.
Oh, don't start saying he's got a spoon in there, a lit-up guitar. He's got a jukebox he doesn't use. I mean, what else is there in there?
It's very cluttered.
Things to make you think he's a character with depth and thoughts and wants, basically.
So, X-Man, what do you think's happened to it? Because that TARDIS is just a warehouse. I mean, he can't have lost it, can he? Because there's nothing there. Mind you, the other thing, Sir X-Man and panel, remember that bit in the blooming giggle. Suddenly he's got a brand new TARDIS, and suddenly in one of the floor panels is a sledgehammer that looks as though it's from some cartoon circus. Really?
No.
So please, X-Man, don't make him go looking for this blooming lit up guitar, because I feel as though at the end he'll play some tune. They'll have a song in the Eurovision. Oh God, don't you start.
Could someone explain to me why the jukebox is even there in the first place? I don't understand why there's a jukebox in the TARDIS if they were never going to utilise it.
Music is popular.
I think
music is very popular when they use it.
Rachel's got it. He's setting up for the Eurovision, Brendan. He did say this season has songs. Now, obviously, the Eurovision one will at least have two. And you kind of have one if, you know, like we had it in Daleks in Manhattan, when there's a song playing while there's action going on. You know, you can do it. It's just whether there's always a twist at the end, whereas, you know, Devil's Car just ran out of...
That's why it might have been so expensive. The most expensive story of the season. Have songs, dance.
But it was worth it, though. It was so worth it.
I mean, as Adrian Sherlock's saying, it's the hardest thing to understand. Why do these people have no faith in the Doctor Who basic formula to make great TV, despite 60 years?
Yes, exactly. 60 years of experience, and they've thrown it out the window.
Christian, I have the answer.
Oh?
It's ego. Oh. He wants to prove he can do it a certain way. Why would Rtd's legacy be he was John Nathan Turner 2 or Verity Lambert 2? He wants to do something that nobody else has dared do with a concept that was already blooming successful.
Well, he's done it, hasn't he?
Well, he's done the change it. He hasn't made it successful.
Yeah. He's killed it. Well, he'll go down history as the one that killed Doctor Who. He's gonna. That's his legacy.
That's gonna be. Well, the irony, Doug, is that initially he did bring it back, and it was.
I know he's bookended his career, hasn't he? That's crazy.
And now he's tanked. And I think that's part of the reason he's so bitter, because he automatically assumed with his hubris that he was going to be able to make this a success the way he had done previously. And I think he's mortified that he failed in that effort.
I think you're spot on there. I think you're spot on, yeah.
Now, let me just ask the big question. I say it's the big question. I'm just a dramatist. Here's the question.
Mayday, mayday, emergency, emergency.
Well, how can you help? How's the Rtd rescue roadmap going on saving Doctor Who, Gan? Based on that episode. Based on that episode.
Based on the episode alone, I think it was a missed opportunity. He could have at least made one step closer to us thinking, okay, he's kind of listening to us, and we're almost there. It could have been scary. It could have been fun. It could have laid some seeds for future episodes. And they just pissed it away. I'm sorry.
I think he was treading water with this one. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't excellent. So
it certainly wasn't a bad one. But treading water is a good analogy.
I'm getting the impression, Paul, that what you're saying there is a bit like the Wild Blue Yonder special, which I thought was very unspecial, but it actually had the whole concept in there, that salt, that blooming salt that the Doctor has caused all this chaos. So he had to write that whole blooming non-entity of an episode to lay some salt. That's what you're saying, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Sonny, you know, you love your Doctor Who. How far's this rescue map going?
Yeah, I do. I think I can enjoy this episode. Well, because I enjoyed this episode probably a little more than everybody else because I haven't watched season 1. This is literally my third Ncuti episode, period, right? Okay. And so it's like, from my perspective, it's like the show's actually kind of going up. but this is season 2. If this was a season 1, I don't think anybody would really be complaining as hard as we can. But because this is a season 2, it's like the trajectory is backwards. So like, even if we're doing better, we was already so far down, going down. Better isn't good enough. So it is what it is.
Well, here we go, Christian. There is this theory out there, which we are worried about episode 8 going meta, because today set it up like Wild Blue Yonder did, as Paul knows. So as chat, I can never say your name.
Sergeant Malazer. Sergeant Malazer.
There you go. Has anyone seen this stupid theory out there at the moment that RTD is purposely making the show bad and hinting about a hiatus to fit the meta plot?
That's my theory.
Oh,
I have heard
God.
that. There are some people that have theorized that he's aware of things being on the downturn, and he figures, why not just pile on and make this a series about me pushing my personal agendas, because I know after Jodie Whittaker there's really no salvaging it, so I'm going to do what the heck I want, and I'll play the game and I'll try and promote it, but I don't really care if it succeeds or not.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, my character development since I started streaming only a year ago is phenomenal, Doug. I mean, as Peter Venkman he says his roadmap is on the wrong part of the country. I think his sat-nav is bust for Doctor Who.
Oh, he needs a map. It doesn't need a sat-nav. I'm genuinely concerned. I think that theory, I heard it too, does hold water, because that would be the sort of theory an egotistical so-and-so would put forth, and we all know, of course, that's not RTD. I'm really concerned.
Doug, the last time this happened, as Doctor Who fans, they got a bit too clever with their trial of a Time Lord, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
They certainly did. They certainly did.
It's giving Colin Baker era vibes. They were dressing him up in the coat. They were dressing him up in the coat, and our doctor plays dress up. Like,
Sonny, you trigger. Rachel's still awake. You're gonna trigger her. She will.
I love Colin Baker though, but like, this is just what it feels like. Time's repeating.
It does. She will agree. I'm sure she. I can't put words in her mouth, but I'm sure she will agree with us on that one. Now, my next item. Oh, it gets scary now. Double, sci-fi rubble, all concern and canon trouble. See that, Christian? I got it in the right order at last.
Where do you come up with these? Where, honestly?
It's easy. I don't have a life. It's simple. So in essence, lads, when I end with Night Terrors, it's basically, once we've stopped talking about this and you get to bed, what's going to be your nightmare based on this episode? Something that you think is going to have a more of a substantial kind of resonance in the series. What's bothering you? What's troubling you about what you've just seen?
Oh, God.
Probably,
I think that's... No, go on.
I was about to say, probably they're still playing with the gods. They're still playing with Miss Flood. So there has to be some kind of resolution dealing with that. Not to mention playing with the Doctor's regeneration energy. So we can see some pieces being played with. But at the same time, based on Empire of Death, I don't have confidence in his ability to pull it off. I'm very much concerned that we'll be let down by the end of May.
That can't be because of the little doggy called Sutek last year, can it?
Oh, no, not at all. And
well,
you know me, I have a personal gripe for dogs being dragged behind cars in leashes. I'm sorry, that just still sits wrong with me.
It's
well,
wrong.
David Harding will go to bed saying he's fearing there still will, in some form or other, be a Series 3.
No, there won't be.
David, RTD, you can sleep well knowing RTD's got ideas up to Series 5. Oh,
Yep.
3! Oh, God. I actually do think, now I really, do you know what, please, somebody listen to me out there who makes these programs. New Who has had its time. Its expiry date is over. I don't think Doctor Who's over, but New Who is over. And we need to get back, as I've said, I don't know how many times now, back to what Doctor Who was, because now is the time it will work. So honestly, my fear is if RTD, and I know the rumours are he's already gone, and by God, I hope he has, because I don't want any more of his ideas, because even though I am giving him today's episode had It had so much potential,
I
but he
know.
executed it so badly. And yet again, the animators, the people behind the scenes, bust a gut. It was brilliant on that worst score. So, Doug, what's going to trouble you after seeing the episode?
My trouble is what you've already discussed about the theory that he's driving the series into the ground. I can't help feeling it's going to be like that last James Bond movie where the only way they got him back was because he insisted that they kill James Bond, which I still can't get over. I think my fear is that RTD is going to do something beyond what he's done already to sabotage this series where it is absolutely irreparable and they can't bring it back. That's my fear. And it's getting so close to being not a nightmare as it might actually happen. So that's my fear.
Well, the question is he that petty?
I mean, Sonny.
Yeah, I know, but
Sonny,
he would be.
Anita Dobson, who's a good actress in this country, she was very excited, she said, when she was told the power and legacy of her character. And when she was told it wasn't an interview, she was given the job, but when she was told by RTD everything that her character would do, she said it got her so excited, and she also made sure she lost a lot of weight to fit the costume of the reveal.
Yeah.
I think Rani. It bothers me because I just don't want us going down the Time Lord road at all. Just leave it alone. But Sonny, have you got any fears that are going to outlast this episode?
The characterization of characters, because like Gatwa was acceptable in this episode, and I don't even believe that's gonna last. I think Mrs. Flood is my favorite character so far out of the 3 episodes I saw, and like you said, she got this whole thing going behind her, but she barely are in the episodes too. Like Adrian called her a non-character, so the characterization and how characters are being depicted is what keeps me up and not wanting to watch this show. But I was pleasantly pleased for this episode.
Yeah. Paul, I know we all have worries about the series, but based on this episode, what's come to mind where you're going, oh, you're not going to do that, are you?
I think it's, will he be able to finish it? Will he be able to leave it? Either
stick the landing,
or leave it nicely for somebody else to pick up on in 5 or 6 years or so.
I don't think he'll be that generous. I think he's going to kill it.
I think
barely stuck this episode.
Yeah. So I'd written down that this whole meta ending to the series is what worries me. Would he really, really go there to actually end the series, leaving it as if it could be left, just high and dry? I mean,
yeah, it's my fear.
Or is he going to go on with this Hooniverse thing, because we've got the Sea Devil and whatnot? What's it called? The War Between Land and Sea? We've got that.
I don't think anyone cares now, do they?
Well, I think Brendan pointed out a good point he's brought up before. You'll end up with a conclusion. We don't know Gatwa's doctor or a version of the doctor goes off for some reason, probably mortally wounded and regenerating. We don't see the results, but anyway, the doctor's out of the picture, which forces UNIT to handle the problem on their own. So, and under those conditions, he's still a presence, even though he's off stage and off site. But the sad thing is, that will be the end of this cycle of stories. So there will not be a clear resolution to that version of the doctor, and no sense of where it's going to go after that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he toasted the character and toasted the show just to burn it to the ground out of spite.
Well, Rachel,
I agree. Yeah. What makes it worse is that everyone keeps forgetting that David Tennant only lives down the road. He's been forgotten about.
And it's not a big garden. Donna's garden's not that big, so I think. But I honestly, this is just grieving me, because I'll ask you the question here. When was the last time you enjoyed watching a Doctor Who episode? And don't tell me you're watching a repeat. I mean, in the linear order we've had, when was the last Doctor Who episode on TV that you enjoyed?
The last one was Capaldi's Farewell. That was the last one I enjoyed. There were moments I didn't like, but there was enough in it that I did like that was probably the last one that I could say I enjoyed.
Yeah, I would say the same one.
Gosh, Doug?
Oh, I'll be a bit more generous. The first maybe 20 minutes of the first special with David Tennant, I thought this is going to be good. How wrong was I? Apart from yeah.
RTD subverted your expectations.
He certainly did. He certainly did. I mean, apart from that, I would agree with everybody else. Probably, I did like Capaldi's final episode. I know it had some criticism, but I did like it.
Doug, remember you in our detox on Friday were making a big claim for Planet of the Dead.
Oh, come on, that was fun. But that wasn't the last time I enjoyed an episode. That was just fun.
Everybody
watch Planet of the Dead. It's a lovely Easter. It's still Easter. It's a lovely Easter episode. Watch it now. Brendan loves it. It's one of his favourites.
Oh, yeah, Jamie, I tell you what, when we come to Adelaide, you better hide. I tell you what.
I'll be visiting my daughter in Sydney about that time, I believe.
Yeah. I won't tell you exactly when I'm arriving.
I've never seen that one.
Oh, you must. You must.
Paul.
No, don't listen to Brendan. Don't listen to Brendan. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Paul, rather than the Dead, I mean, you might as well do your ironing.
It's an Easter episode that will make you feel alive again. It'll make you appreciate life.
What? Unlike the bus driver.
No, the bus driver is not relevant. Bus drivers are not relevant.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. There's probably a bus driver watching. Bus drivers are lovely.
So, Sonny, I've lost my gist of who I've asked now. When was the last episode you enjoyed? I asked you. You see, when I got to know Sonny, I asked him could he watch Dot and Bubble. So it won't be that one, surely. But when was the last one you enjoyed in order?
You did that to Sonny.
I did watch
bastard.
That was his audition. No.
What kind of sadistic bastard are you?
I was having a good time with it until the end. But
you see, this is it. I'm a teacher. I'm vicious.
Oh my god!
Genuinely enjoyed. It might be Heaven Sent, the Zygon inversion. I think I liked Heaven Sent the best, probably. Like I saw Peter, I think Bankman in the chat said Heaven Sent. That's always my go-to answer. Other than that, I don't know. It's in the UK. Yeah, is that what you want me to say?
I'm not putting words.
He wants you to say. That's what he wants. Yeah, that's what he wants you to say. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, as if I have any power over you lot. Stephen.
Oh, you do. You can pull the plug at any time. You've told us that if we say something you don't like, you've got this mute.
There you go. I've muted him. Makes it a little bit. I'm joking. So, Stephen Braddock, I'd watch Planet of the Dead over Lux any day.
Me too.
Lux sucks. I nearly had my thumbnail saying that, but then I always get the ones going, Brendan, you're very negative. Gareth Morgan, Twice Upon a Time, which is exactly what Christian was saying, but it was a fan edit that ended Doctor Who properly.
Okay.
Yeah, because he died in the Cybermen one. That was his real regeneration, wasn't it? And then he had to be dragged back for this one. And that was a shame. That was a damn shame because his speech was better. You know, when he said they ought to be stars. And I thought, it's so sad. There's so much pathos.
It was a good,
And, only David Tennant gets to die twice. And that didn't work either. I don't want to go. Oh, bog off. So, yes, Twice Upon a Time, says Gareth Morgan. Cersei Lux is fluxed. Again, I wanted to play around with that thumbnail, but I'm too predictable, aren't I? New Who Hater, Lux has been and gone. Next. Yeah, I know. It's so distinctive, isn't it? New Who Hater. Let's have a look. Happy Easter. The well might be decent, says Lee Smith. Yeah, it does look half decent. My worry is that the actress, Rosa Aileen Ellis, because she's a deaf actress, and she's just, she's a good actor, but she'll play the role with that impairment, so to speak. And the doctor will be going, oh, you're the last one there. And they'll be looking around. And I think the evil one will be her. And
okay.
You know what I mean? We've seen this trick before. You know, when you're going, oh my God, you poor soul, you're left on your own and everyone else has died. Oh, what a shame. And then while they're looking that way, she's the problem. I don't think it's anything amazing. I think it's been done many times before. And I think that's why, you know, you think, oh, she's you know, she's very, you know, she's got problems and all the rest of it. Oh, bless, and she's on her own. Oh, Mr. Squinty Mint, Brendan, you're very negative. Well, you get on this channel and you give me some positivity because I'm up for it. I am. You know me. I am up for it. But I thought I was being really upbeat tonight. I'm going to watch it next week.
Toxic positivity.
I mean, remember, Mr. Squinty Mint, I am one of those Doctor Who fans who still is watching. I'm not one of them. I haven't walked away. I don't walk away from things. I'm too stubborn. Rachel, I do like Twice Upon a Time. David Bradley did do a great interpretation of the first Doctor.
Yeah, I think he did.
Matrix Lord, who is wrapping me in knots sometimes with his theories, the Daleks and Cybermen need to return to wipe away the fantasy and gods and ground Doctor Who back in reality. You see, even I think that's fair, isn't it, Matrix Lord? You are quite into some of the stuff that's been going on, and even you're not happy. And I think that's a worry for RTD. Excuse me. Lee Smith is going. He's not going to do deaf people as evil. Oh, what a trope! We've got.
No, he wouldn't do that.
Oh,
he wouldn't do that.
So C thinks we should start a committee and become the new showrunners. I think it's called a coup. We all know where RTD lives in Swansea. I think if we all raid the house. No, what we do is we do a petition. We go very British. We do a petition and we send lots of letters and nothing happens. And that's the very British, pathetic way, yeah?
That's not the Australian way.
I know. I've got an international panel, Paul. I'm stuffed on that one. I'm not going to get that. Yeah. So X-Man, I think Miss Flood might be Romana from an alternative universe that the Doctor left her in. Oh, God. And that's going to go down well with the casual viewers going, what? Excuse me? What? Who's Romana? What alternative universe? Why? Yeah, I mean, I know. It too much fan fiction is. I'm not slagging off the thread. I'm saying the RTD should be serving the public, the wider public. So, did you know, lads, that was our Who Night number 2, and
our Who
Night number 3. The Well will be up and running before you know it. Tomorrow night, everybody. As you know by now, I've got John, Michelle, Rachel, and Paul, a different Paul, on the panel. And as you know, we give our ratings. We will also discuss the ratings, and we'll also be talking about our burning issues. And oh yes, it might get very tasty. It did last week. So thank you, Christian. Thank you, Doug.
My pleasure.
I'll just say thank you to everyone first. Thanks, Sonny, and thanks, Paul, for giving me 2 hours of your time. Now, Boomer Doug, what's going on your channel at the moment?
Nothing really. Well, I have 2 channels. I have a Man from Uncle channel that's doing very well, and at the moment I'm recounting my favourite Man from Uncle episodes. At the moment on Boomer Doug, I've just dropped an episode about the lovely Easter specials that they showed when I was a kid, made by Rankin and Bass, those lovely animations that they are probably better known for their Christmas ones, but they did 2 particularly lovely Easter ones that I've got some clips on. So if you guys love Easter and you love Rankin and Bass, check out Boomer Doug.
Certainly. And Sonny, you told me the other day, you said you had a channel.
Yeah, I upload a couple of shorts about comic books sometimes.
Nice.
Clips of different things I watch on YouTube, different commentary stuff. I was thinking about making a video reacting to like some people's thoughts on the robot revolution and like what I thought about it. Maybe I'll do it for Lux. But if not, yeah, I mean, I also live stream sometimes, but That's just for fun. But mostly the
You're
shorts.
very brave doing that, live streaming.
Well, I mean, just to remind everybody, look out for our ratings analysis. And I didn't do a Sense for Your Saloon last week because I'm setting up new shows. But yes, there'll be a ratings analysis on my own, as well as obviously with the panel tomorrow night. And I've got my slug report. I'll say more later.
That sounds filthy. That sounds so filthy.
5-minute news
I've got
report.
my slug report coming up. Watch out.
Yeah, where I slug on the news. So please
Look out for the slug.
I've got plenty coming up. Yeah,
That's what the slug said.
I think the panel, not the panel. I thought the thread think I was being lazy last week. I only did 5 shows. I mean, it's really bad. Really,
You're slowing down a bit. You're getting old, mate. It wasn't time you would have done double that.
I feel an urge to come on every day. No, I don't. Right. Anyway, thank you, everybody. And thank you for giving me your time and having a chat. And so, obviously, as you know, everybody, we've got it tomorrow night. And on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, we've got Sonny will be on there when we look at it a different way. We throw Rtd'S words back at him, don't we? Regarding that episode. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for your time. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.